Hey, how you doing? Good to see you all again. Mr. Douglas here. Today we are going to do the fourth review topic of the 7th grade year. It's really a topic that was covered at the beginning of 6th grade. It's on exponents and square roots. Exponents is the same thing as powers, like 2 to the third power, 2 to the exponent of 3. Square root is when you have a bigger number and you're going to try to find out what times what equals that. Not like 16 times 1 or 2 times 8, but a square. That's what that means, a square root. So in that case, it'd be 4 times 4. So that's a perfect square is what that's called. All right, well anyway, that's what we're talking about today. Let's jot down a couple notes. We're going to first talk about exponents and powers. Let's take a look at that. Just as a reminder, I know we've already covered a little bit of squared and cubed this year. If you'll recall, when we did area, you would have length times width, or we would also call it base times height, because as we move into triangles and other shapes, it's easier to use base times height, but in elementary we learned length times width. So say this is length and this is width. And I explained it like if this was the room of my classroom. I said, class, if I was standing here in the corner and I said, how far is it from me to the door over here? And let's say they measured it and it was 10 feet. Okay? I said, okay, that's a straight line. It's got feet by itself. 10 feet. It's one dimensional. But when we do area, let's say this is 12 feet, now I have to do length times width, which is 10 times 12, which equals 120. But it's not just 10 times 12, it's feet times feet. And that's why it's feet to the second power, or feet squared, if you remember hearing us say that all the time. Okay? And we'll talk about that a little bit more. We're going to do some exponents, but I'm just reminding you what we've already covered, okay? When we did a three-dimensional object, so let's say this is our three-dimensional cereal box or something, okay? Technically, and I said like if I was doing the measurements of our room, I said that too. It'd be length times width, then times the height of the room. Or that's called the volume. So it's really the length times the width of like the top or bottom, the shape that's the same on both sides, and then times the height. Okay? So we could say this is the length, this is the width, yikes, and then this is the height. Okay? Now, if that's all in feet as well, let's say it's 2 feet, and this is 6 feet, and this is 10 feet. So the area of the base, which is the shape at the bottom, that's length times width, okay? The area of the base is 6 times 2, which equals 12, okay? And then times the height, which is 10, equals 120. Oh, I got the same as the other problem. But it's feet times feet times feet. It's three-dimensional. So therefore, it's feet to the third power, or we call that cubed. Now, I don't know that there's a name for it, at least at this level. And when we say to the fourth power, fifth power, sixth power, we don't have a word like squared and cubed that's common usage. There may very well be one that I don't recall from college or way back when or whatever, but that's the ones you need to know. Squared and cubed means to the second power or to the third power. Okay, so that's some previous knowledge. I like to call that PK, previous knowledge. That's some stuff we already did this year and why it is the way it is with exponents. Now let's just talk a little bit about exponents. Basically, exponents are the little number that shows up. I think that I started off with that on the top front page, right? It does not mean 3 times 2. They would have just written 3 times 2, okay? Don't get confused by that. It means 3 times itself that many times, 2 times, okay? This does not mean 2 times 3. It means 2 times itself 3 times. So instead of writing out 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, we could just say 2 to the 6th power or whatever, okay? If you can do it in your head probably, but as it gets more complicated, I just always like doing little trees like this. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8, okay? So 2 to the 3rd power, or 2 cubed, equals 8. 3 to the 2nd power, or 3 squared, equals 9. All right? So we're going to do a few problems at the end as some examples. I just wanted to remind you how this works. Sometimes it gets a little confusing when they add tens, 10 to the 3rd power. Okay? That means 10 times 10 times 10. Well, you just count up the zeros. 1, 2, 3. It's 10 to the 3rd power. There's going to be 3 zeros. Okay? So if you get confused, it says 10 to the 6th power. You just write the 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. $1 million. All right? Okay, that's a short review on exponents. Let's take before we do some example problems, let's take a look at square roots. Okay? Square roots is trying to find out what times itself equaled the number you started with. Okay? Oh, scary. Here we go. Let's see. So if you had on the opening, that's what this symbol means. That means the square root of something. Okay? And I started with 16. So all they're asking you is what times itself equals 16. And if it's a multiplication table number, you should know. Well, that's 4 times 4. Okay, so that's 4 squared. Or, well, 4 squared equals 16. But the square root of 16 equals 4. Okay? They're just asking for the one number, the square of it. Okay? Not both of them. Okay. So if it's numbers you're familiar with, you know, like even if I said the square root of 81, most people know that's 9 times 9. So the square root of that is just 9. Okay? And then if I said what's 9 squared, that means 9 times 9, which is 81. All right, get the idea? But they're going to give us bigger numbers. And sometimes, we're not doing this right now, but just so you know, they'll do this. What's the cube root? Okay? I'm only doing that because I already know. We just did it earlier. So you're trying to find what times itself 3 times equals 8. Well, 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 a third time, 1, 2, 3, equals 8. So 2 would be the cube root of 8. But we're not going to do cube roots. I'm just giving you a sneak peek of the future. All right? Now what's going to happen is they're going to give you problems that are not from the multiplication table. You will get problems, and I think, I'm going off the top of my head, let's try this one. I think it might be 625. 25 times 25, it's been a while since I've done these. It's 10, 11, 12, 0, 10, 4, 5. Yeah, it's 625. So if I said the square root of 625 would be 25. Okay? 225 I don't think has an exact square root unless it's 15 times 15. I might as well try it since I said it. Let's just see. Okay, 25, 5, 6, 7, 0, 15, 5. Look at that. 225. So the square root of 225 is 15. All right? So if they give you some crazy numbers, there's 2. If it's less than 625 and more than 225, you know it's somewhere between 15 and 25. We'll take a look at some sample problems in just a bit. Dun, 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 dun. All right, so for my class, and I'll have these posted on Google Classroom. No! A lot of teachers love IXL, and I heard about it a few years before I actually used it, and I went and looked at it online, and I didn't quite understand it. I thought we had to make everything up on our own. I didn't understand it, but since then, I am a proud member, an IXL supporter, and I'll tell you why, guys. It's not to be mean. The cool thing about IXL is, one, yes, it is rigorous, and it can get challenging at the upper levels, and it prepares you usually to the extent or beyond what you need for tests. So that when you take the test, you're like, oh man, that wasn't that bad. That was pretty easy. I like to do the same thing in sports. Always work so hard that the games are the easy, fun part. And the practices are the hardest thing ever. The practices are the things that we hated because our coaches would make them so hard. And that's the way I like to do it. So it's the same thing for IXL. But the best thing about IXL is if you don't understand it and you make mistakes and you scroll down under the problem, it explains to you what you did wrong. And because most people aren't going to go try to look it up on their own, but that's what you should also do. And step 2 is if you don't understand their explanations, go to YouTube. And I tell my students, always look up like this. If you have any topic, guys, that you're not sure about and you need some help on, you should search under your grade level. So, for example, if I'm in the YouTube search bar, I'm going to type 7th, or I guess it really comes out like this, right? 7th. And then I'm going to write the topic. So let's say it was exponents. I'm going to search it like that. I'm going to look for, usually I tell my kids, look for 1 to 3 minute videos to give you the gist so you understand how to do it. Okay? I know mine are longer, but I'm going in more depth as if I'm doing an initial teach on it to make sure you understand all the ins and outs. But usually I would look for the shorter videos. And then you might find certain ones you like that are funny most of the time or a little bit silly, have better graphics. That's cool too. I try to watch all the different kinds. Sometimes I just watch a teacher standing on a board writing it, real short and sweet. Other times I watch the overproduced, people that obviously seem to look like they have hundreds of thousands of dollars to put into these videos, and they do funny stuff. It's cool. I like those things too. So you can research and find any topic you want. You don't even need somebody to help you explain it. You can look it up online usually. Okay? All right. So to finish here, we're going to take a look at these IXLs. For my students, they're due Friday at noon. We're giving you a test at 8 a.m. online, and you have to submit the answers on DMAC by midnight, before midnight, and submit a picture to us showing the steps. It's only 10 problems, and it's the first week of online distance learning, so the teachers have made it a very easy, should be the easiest test we've had all year. Okay, that's not to say some people are still going to miss 1, 2, or 3. Get a little trick, take it easy, not study. Make sure you prepare. You should have done all the IXLs we've assigned this week